Basically what I was saying was that I joined DOE in July as a tech to market advisor, that I have been prior to that working in the SBIR and STTR community for more than 20 years. And I have worked with many of you. I recognize you because I've worked with hundreds of SBIR and STTR funded companies. So I look forward to continuing to work with you in this new DOE role. In this role, I'm focused on improving partnering, providing resources to help each of you as you move along each step of the development path towards successful commercialization. So that's what I'm going to talk to you about today, about commercialization and why it's important and what key points need to be addressed in your phase 2 commercialization plan. So first, I just want to state that commercialization is a statutory goal of the SBIR and STTR programs. So it is not just we want to hope that you commercialize your technology that we're funding, but it is a congressional objective. So as an agency, we're required to report back. Congress wants to see return on investment of the taxpayer funds that are being used. So we recognize that commercialization can take many different forms, and this just is illustrating what some of the ways are that DOE technologies have been commercialized. So you'll see that sale of product or service, not just commercial sales, but also sales to research institutes or federal agencies. It may be through license or acquisition of the technology. You'll see that that makes up a smaller portion, the acquisition, and government contracts. And so I just want to define that that is non-SBIR funds. So perhaps you are developing a technology that DoD might be interested in as well. And so if they issue a contract, non-SBIR funds, then that would be considered phase 3 funds. The big piece here in defining it is that it is non-SBIR funds. So the phase 2 proposal will be reviewed similarly to how your phase 1 was reviewed. There are two types of reviews, though, with a phase 2. So you're going to have a peer review, and you're going to have a commercial or business review. And so you'll see that the criteria are very similar to what you saw in phase 1. So 1/3 is going to be on technical merit, 1/3 is going to be on the ability to carry out the project, and 1/3 is going to be on impact. And that's where the commercialization fits in. So during phase 2, you are going to be reviewed on your technical merit and your ability to carry out the project by peers. So these reviewers are going to be subject matter experts who are very familiar with your technology. They're going to look at the science of your technology. And then you are also going to have a commercial or business review. And these reviewers are going to look at your commercialization plan. They're going to ask, is the strategy sound? Have you done customer discovery? Is there a market? Do you have letters of support that validate that there is a market or that someone might actually purchase your technology at some point? So in looking at this and thinking about it, remember that Congress has mandated that there needs to be return on investment. So your commercialization plan and your company commercialization history is very important. And that's why we ask you to report on both of them. So let's look at the 2021 phase 2 proposal selection. And scoring is just the start. So what you're going to see here is that after the scoring takes place, then the proposals are ranked. And as Manny discussed, we have many more proposals than we can fund. So your goal really needs to be to have sound technology, but also to have a strong commercialization plan. because you can see in 2021, we awarded 146 phase 2 proposals. There were 108 that were not recommended for funding, but there were also 101 that were recommended for funding, but were not awarded. So you want to make sure that you work very hard to have a plan that discusses sound technology, but also a very strong commercialization plan, because you don't want to fall into this recommended for funding but not awarded category. So Congress does recognize that commercialization is hard. So they make TABA funds available so that you can secure critical services that are necessary for successful commercialization. So Manny touched on this briefly. TABA is the legislative name for commercialization assistance funds. Phase 1 support is $6,500. There is a DOE commercialization vendor, LARDA, that provides commercialization services through the CAP. I think many of you are participating in the CAP, and then there is a smaller percentage of you who secured an external vendor for phase 1 support. But really, you want to take advantage of that, because as you move from phase 1 to phase 2, you really need to develop your commercialization strategy. In phase 2, the support is $50,000, and you do need to indicate your plan to use these funds when you submit your phase 2 proposal. So you need to budget for it. You need to identify the services and the vendors. I also want to clarify that the funds are for third-party vendors, or a federal entity that issues patents, certifications, or regulatory approvals. It cannot be used to pay your staff, and it also can't be used to pay your brother-in-law or sister-in-law that provides business assistance to you. And it can't be used for staff to travel and or attend conferences. So there are some stipulations there. But on the flip side, it can be used for additional market research. It can be used to work with a service provider on developing your strategy, on developing marketing communication services, getting someone to help you with your accounting services, working with a patent agency, or working with a patent lawyer to get that put together as well. All right, so next steps. Since you're sitting here with your phase 1 award and you're saying, why is she talking all about phase 2? That's because, as Manny mentioned, this is the only time we have to speak with you as one big group. And so we really want to make sure that you understand the significance of your commercialization history and your phase 2 commercialization plan. We want to make sure that you utilize the phase 1 CAP service options. So you have many of you, the DOE vendor I mentioned, LARDA, or an external provider. If you have questions about the CAP services offered by LARDA, please visit their booth in Gathertown. They will have someone there for the formal networking sessions. Also, LARDA will be giving a presentation tomorrow, Tuesday at 11:20. So you'll want to sit in on that as well. Take advantage of the mentors participating in the PI meeting. Review the phase 2 commercialization plan specifications now. Don't wait. It's going to take a significant amount of effort to put this together. In phase 1, it was 4 pages. Now, as you move to phase 2, you have to expand and validate that information into 15 pages. And then also, as you're working on this, think about how you can utilize TABA funds in phase 2 to advance your commercialization, or as you identify weaknesses and gaps. So I mentioned you got to go look at those specifications, and you're going to say, wait, they're not there yet. So what I'm going to suggest is that, yes, they are going to be released on February 28th. And right now, though, the release 1 specifications are there. So you can go and look at the release 1 specifications. Where do you find commercialization plan specifications? You find them in section 8 in the how-to guides. So it's pretty far back in the discussion. It is page 57 or more. You'll want to review the introduction because that really speaks to how critical it is to the proposal and that you want to have a compelling value proposition. It also speaks to how, as I mentioned previously, DOE recognizes that there are many different ways to commercialize the technology. So you don't have to be too worried about, did I pick the right strategy? No, we understand that they're going to be different for each small business. So the phase two commercialization plan, again, it's a expansion of what you did in phase one. In phase one, we really just wanted to get you thinking about how you might commercialize the technology. It was 4 pages, no big deal, right? Phase two is now going to require more thought. It asks you to put the validated reasoning and assumptions behind the information that you put in. So it's 15 pages. It has 4 sections: market opportunity, company and team, competition and intellectual property, and finance and revenue model. So I'm going to go through this quickly because I don't have that much time, but the PowerPoint will be posted and you'll be able to go back and refer to this. So what key points should you cover in the market opportunity? Well, you want to provide an understanding that you know who the stakeholders are in your ecosystem. You want to call out who your customers are, who are your end users, what issues do they face today, and why do the solutions that are out there today not solve the issues that they have? And here, while you're putting this together, think about the letters of support you could have. I know that you don't really get into them until section 4, but you can say here, you know, I'm working with so and so who's a key player in this particular industry, and I have a letter of support. That letter of support may not say that they promised to purchase it, but what it can do is validate the need. It can validate the features. It can talk about how big of an issue this is. Maybe it can speak to how the problem, by not having a solution, how much that costs them. Um, you need to provide an understanding of the competition. And I know some of you think, well, no one, I don't have any competition. Well, think about what solution is out there today. If there is a market that is an opportunity, I can guarantee you that someone else is working on a solution. So remember to think about your competition in terms of direct and indirect. What are they using today? What product is it? Who are the key players? What do those solutions cost? How much would they pay for a solution if it actually answered all of their needs? So when you look at this, don't just try to sell yourself short and say, whoa, well, I'm going to make it, you know, I'm going to come in lower than what's out there today, or I'm going to come in at the same price. Often, if you're really answering a problem they can't have solved, they might be willing to pay more for that. How do they typically purchase? What barriers exist? Perhaps someone else came out with a solution and it didn't work. And so now you've got to overcome that. You may have to allow them to use a demo instrument or do samples for them or put out a white paper that speaks to the success. What impact does all of this have on your business strategy? And then really make sure that you understand your niche opportunity. Speak to how you validated it. And if you're going to pursue more than one market opportunity, because many of you will need to do that, um, make sure you have a time phased plan to do that. You want to begin generating revenue before you start pursuing many different opportunities. So the typical struggles: no evidence of customer discovery or validation of the need, no estimate of the market size in dollars and for your particular niche, selection of the appropriate business strategy. You know, if there are several large key players operating in the space that you're going into, you may not be able to say that your 2 or 3 person company is going to go head to head with them. So really think about the fact that you may have to license. You know, maybe that's not what you wanted to do, but you may have to think about that strategy based on what's happening, the landscape of your industry or the market. And no letters of support. So the suggestion is to use CAP services to gain access to reputable market research reports, engage in customer discovery. This is so important. Manny mentioned that we have started a pilot with the Energy I-Core, and we are going to be expanding that. So if you have the chance to participate, I really encourage you to do that. Start building the necessary relationships now, and if you identify gaps in your knowledge or your marketing strategy, think about where you might be able to use phase two TABA funds. So the key points for the company and the team, make sure that you speak to existing products and or services. What is your dependence on SBIR and STTR funding? If it's high, what are your plans to move towards selling products and or services? Speak to the business expertise on your team. So often I read a commercialization plan where you've told me how great the technical team is, but keep in mind, this is the commercialization plan. So really speak to what business expertise you have. And in speaking to that, talk about whether or not any of them have expertise bringing other products to market, and identify who specifically is responsible for the commercialization, especially if right now all you have is a technical team. So call out that lack of experience on your team, but speak to how it will be addressed. So typical struggles: you've had a long-term dependence on SBIR and STTR funds with no immediate plans to change. We want to work on that. Remember, we need to show return on investment of the taxpayer funds. Only technical expertise on the team, no identification of who is responsible for commercialization, and then a lack of self-awareness. It could be that you don't have the perfect team right now. Many of you are startups and you're in phase one, but really recognize that and say, what are you going to do about it? Reach out to the business mentors. They can probably help you here. Consider forming a board of advisors. Um, if you're going to partner with someone, maybe you can utilize some of their commercial capabilities. Provide information here and a time phase plan to strengthen the team if it isn't what it needs to be today. Key points for section 3, the competition and IP. Make sure you describe your sustainable competitive advantage. How is that going to help you gain market share? Make sure you do diligence in looking at what patent and IP is out there now. Describe how you're different enough to have freedom to operate. Do you have a plan to secure IP if you haven't yet? And that's a place, remember, you can use TABA funds for that in phase 2. So think about using those. And is there additional IP that you might need to secure? So typical struggles: inadequate comparison of existing solutions, inadequate discussion of existing IP or the existing IP landscape, limited or no discussion of how your sustainable competitive advantage is going to be protected. So maybe you don't have a patent now, or maybe you don't have it secured at all, but you need to be thinking about how you're going to do that. And so put the time phase plan down on paper and tell us about it. Use CAP services to conduct due diligence and help with the competitive analysis. Validate competitive features that you have found using customer discovery, and create that time phase plan to secure IP. Key points for section 4. Create a time phase plan that identifies the milestones necessary and the funding and funding sources to bring the technology from where it is in concept and feasibility testing of phase 1 to the market. Then use your letters of support to validate it. And when I say identify milestones, don't just identify R&D milestones, the technical milestones. Think about all the other milestones: legal, pilot scale manufacturing, marketing and sales. Maybe you need distributors. Your legal, it might be IP. And if you're going to have a strategic partner, you might need legal for negotiations as well. Then you also need to include your pro forma income statement for year 1 and 2 of phase 2 and 3 years post phase 2. And you need to include an estimate of the DOE return on investment for the next 10 years. These do not count towards page count, neither do your letters of support. So put in all the information that you need, include the assumptions. There's no magic number for either of them, but cash is king. So you need to make sure that you're going to demonstrate in your income statement that you have positive cash flow. If you don't, you need to talk about how you're going to keep that going. Are your sales projections reasonable? We do recognize that the year of your first revenue is going to depend on your technology, so just make sure that you explain it all. And yes, we recognize that we're kind of asking you to look in your magic ball and see what's going to be happening, but we're really asking you to think through it. We want to see how you think through these things and make sure that it makes sense. So typical struggles, only including technical milestones, no discussion of the funding sources, no explanation or limited discussion of the projections and assumptions, no evidence of support. So really make sure that you include letters of support that validate the need, the market, the team, the technology, maybe someone's willingness to collaborate, test, or purchase, a strategic partner, and maybe you don't have investment today because you're just moving from phase 1 to phase 2. But if you are beginning to nurture a relationship with an investor, mention that. So suggestions, work on your milestone table to understand the total funding required, work with your CAP provider to review it and to also help you identify potential sources of funding, and really work on providing validation of the assumptions that you have in there. Final thoughts, reviewers are business generalists. Avoid technical jargon that only people specialized in the field would understand. Your commercialization plan is your business case. It's not just a collection of information. This is what you are providing to the DOE business reviewer as your push for why they should continue funding of the development. This is a living document. It's not going to stay the same. It's going to change and change frequently. So maybe you decide that your strategy is going to bring it to market yourself. Maybe in 2 years you decide that's not really the way to go and you end up licensing it. That's okay. This is a living document. We're just trying to see how you think through things today. Write for the reviewer, narrative prose, not Q&A, and while your proposal, the technical side of it, needs to address the DOE mission area, your commercialization plan can speak to adjacent markets or future commercialization activities. Just talk about a time phase plan to do so. And make the commercialization plan and the accompanying letters of support, return on investment worksheet, and income statement a standalone narrative document. It's all going to be uploaded as one single PDF. So where do you upload the commercialization plan? You're going to upload it within the SBIR and STTR information form. You're going to upload it in field 7, again, as one PDF. So the SBIR and STTR information form is very important, and you're going to find information about that in the FOA. It's important because not only are you going to talk about your commercialization plan, but you also need to prepare a commercialization report, a company commercialization report. You get this form on SBIR.gov, and you are going to save it as a PDF and upload it. So this is where your commercialization plan goes. Field 7, again, upload all of it as one PDF. And the commercialization history, again, visit SBIR.gov. That's where you're going to be able to complete your company commercialization report. I have given you a link to instructions. It has screenshots. It's very user-friendly, so I think it should be able to walk you all the way through it. Here's something important. If you are an SBIR, you're going to actually be able to upload this PDF within the SBIR and STTR information form. You upload it in field A. Unfortunately, if you are an STTR, we have recently realized that you don't have a place to upload it. So right now, what we are telling you to do is to upload it within the other project information form, field 12, where it allows you to put in other attachments. That's where you should put it. So I'm running out of time, so just a couple more slides. Really take advantage of the participating mentors. All of these folks have been successful at getting phase 1s and phase 2s, many of them multiple ones. So you can go into the one-on-one section and you will find most of these folks under the mentor category. Colin Dunn is actually going to be speaking shortly, and you will find him under the speaker selection. So there are multiple places. You have till 9 p.m. tonight to secure a one-on-one meeting. So thank you. This is my contact information. We're very interested in hearing from you, and I, in particular, in my new role, I'm very interested in talking to you about your individual partnering needs. So thank you. And I think I have 2 minutes for questions.
Yeah, Carol, actually, I think the way the agenda is, we're about 8 minutes over. But I think I'll just try to summarize a couple of questions. We did get some questions related to patenting. So first, can TABA be used for patenting? Does it go to attorneys, filing fees, foreign filing? Can it be used on our hours discussing foreign filing with our legal counsel, or do we have to separate those?
Right. So you could probably answer that question too. Yes. But
okay, I'll go ahead.
You take it.
Because there's some foreign filing stuff there.
Yes.
So remember, with TABA funds, you have to give it to a third party. So you can never use it to pay yourself, pay any time you spend on patenting. So yes, you can use it for patenting. You can use it for your filing fees, for your attorneys. You cannot use it for any foreign filing. It has to be only for domestic filings. A related question we have in terms of splitting the TABA funds, can you split it between, say, LARDA and half for LARDA, half for patent attorney, and the so you are, I don't care if you want to answer that one. You can have multiple vendors.
Yes.
I would just indicate that for the phase 2, again, you will have to do everything, with regard to independent, your own vendors. You won't be able to use essentially the CAP program for that.
Right, and also,
okay, so
yeah, I think we're out of time. I think.
Yeah. Okay. So.
But I'll work through these, and so just so everyone knows, we do capture the questions, and so we will make sure that we get answers back to you on these. So no worries there. We will make sure that we correspond with you. But thank you. Okay, so this is our final presentation of the morning that is coming up. And I know that, so Emmanuel and David, you stand between them and lunch. No, okay. Our final presentation is coming from the Solar Energy Technologies Office, where we'll hear from 2 integral members of the office's SBIR and STTR program, Emmanuel Pecora and David Walter. Emmanuel is an advanced solar energy R&D scientist within CETO. His portfolio includes hardware and software projects, as well as projects aimed at creating new investment funds and business models with the solar space. In addition, he is the office's SBIR and STTR portfolio manager. He oversees the program, ensuring alignment of the office goals and award selection, and monitors award progress and impact. David is a technology manager for the systems integration team within CETO. He is interested in ensuring the resilience of the grid by optimizing operations and leveraging utility, commercial, and residential solar energy systems. He manages a variety of programs with a focus on power electronics, smart communications, operations, and maintenance, and codes and standards. David also plays an integral role in the management of the office's SBIR STTR program. With that, I will go ahead and turn it over to you, Emmanuel and David.